that they will dismantle inspectorage. And then came the UPA 1, it made the same promise. UPA 2 hasn't talked about it yet, but I'm sure it's at the back of their mind. And small and medium enterprises are most affected by this process of inspectorate system, which is very complex, and it leads to what economists sweetly called rent-seeking, which common people call bribing. I had the opportunity of heading a committee of the government at one time on excise duties, and I found the rents were uniform all across the country. Market works. Whether it's in Chennai or in Delhi, you have to seal something which then gets exported under bond. What you had to pay was more or less the same. So market is very efficient in even redistributing, pricing this kind of rent. So let me submit that were they challenged in this period of downturn? Deeply so. Did they go under? The answer is no. In fact, what our perception is the best among them became even better. Those who were vulnerable were those who did not have liquidity, those who could not provide collateral for loans from banks or from financial institutions or from microfinance institutions, those who were not willing to undergo the changes that I've listed. So I would submit that what have we learned from this process? The topic for today is mid-sized companies tiding over the global financial crisis. Very critical in this process is that our growth rate did not fall to a point where there was mayhem as it was in the United States, or in London, in UK, or in Germany, where the economies were shrinking. We were still growing at about 6.5%. So the space for small and medium enterprises was still there because of the momentum of growth, which they could still ride on, whereas small and medium enterprises in most other parts of the world were folding up. I know in Germany, German economy was shrinking. The Mittelstand, as they call them, the famous mid-sized companies, high technology intensity, were folding up. I'd conclude by saying, what is the deficiency still that needs to be filled? Critical deficiency is lack of technology intensity compared to the developed countries. When I go to Germany, I go to France, I go to UK, or I go to United States, what characterizes a mid-sized company or a small company in particular as distinct from that of ours? Extremely technology-driven. I'll end with a personal anecdote. I took my car in the United States in Pennsylvania. When I used to be an academic, I took my car to a garage. The garage was being run by one guy, and I got very worried. How is he going to do all these different things? Everything in his place was hydraulic. He could move the car around, he could move the engine around. Even, as you know, the opening of nuts and bolts are hydraulic, either electrical or hydraulic, and the rest was electronic. He had all the electronic gadgetry. So I asked him, why don't you keep another guy? You work alone. He said, first, I have the technology to work alone. Two, I don't get along with other people. And I said, who did you not last get along with? He said, my son-in-law. I threw him out. He'd taken him to help him and teach him, but he couldn't get along. So what is fascinating in this time of downturn is the leveraging, the creativity of the small and medium enterprises, with a caveat: if you were on the edge of time, you fell out of the globe. And many small and medium enterprises may have fallen out. So I would submit growth, aggregate growth, innovativeness, capacity to change, capacity to be liquid, capacity to conserve capital, capacity to create human capital and skills, for which our country just does not have the government infrastructure, is what kept them there. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.